If you are a stickler on how words are pronounced, then this video is going to make your brain explode and your ears cry out for mercy. So how do you pronounce carbine or carbine? Well, recently we posted a video about the gyrojet rocket guns and we used the word carbine, and you would think we just landed on Mars and no one ever heard of that word before. And many of the commenters were like, they just found Waldo. They were so excited that they thought they found something wrong with the video, right? The wrong pronunciation. First we'll see how people in the firearm industry, people dealing with real guns, studying them, talking about them and all that, how they say the word.
The Army adopted the new weapon as Carbine Caliber 30 M1.
This is the 1945 M1 carbine from Inland Manufacturing. I want to talk to you a little bit about
my personal M1 carbine. M1 carbine's a really interesting little rifle.
Modelo 1891 sounds delicious, but it's actually a carbine. Let's go take a look in the light box.
That became famous after his participation in the M1 carbine project, and then he was eventually...
Hey, I'm Justin Baldini, product director here at Colt, and this is the new Colt Combat Unit Carbine.
Anyway, it is the PC carbine, and we had been anxious to try it.
We're going to be talking about top 5 9mm carbines, and I realize some of the guns on the table here aren't carbines yet.
Enter the M1 carbine.
Range? Well, not really a moped. We're here to fire a high-point carbine. Now, it could be said that these are light.
Back to 30 carbine, that a soldier would be a lot better off with.
Comes up, why would you carry a sidearm the same caliber as your carbine? And this...
The M1 carbine was designed to issue to people who don't shoot for a living, cooks, clerks, mechanics.
The CZ Scorpion Evo 3 carbine, let's check it out.
BCM carbine, Paul Buffoni, the owner.
You know, it's a 9mm carbine, foldable stock.
He brought out his M2 carbine, which I didn't even know until he told me about
this new Ruger PC carbine to do a video on, and
a Marlin Model 9 Camp carbine.
They wound up developing a whole family of weapons to include a pistol, a carbine, and a rifle.
This carbine itself is an actual T3 carbine that was produced during World War II. It's remained in the original unaltered configuration.
Today we're taking a look at this little carbine right here. This is the G45 Guard from
the newest firearm, the pistol caliber carbine in 9mm.
A Glock handgun, and basically turn it into a carbine.
Academy here to talk to you about the MPX carbine.
I wanted to show off the M4 carbine.
A 10mm carbine here.
The tactical carbine generation 2. Not much change.
The FN-15 carbine is a faithful M4.
We're going to be taking a look at an M4 style AR carbine from a company.
Pistol caliber carbine, go ahead, man.
All right, so PC carbine.
Now, this is not just an M1 carbine, this is actually a fully transferable M2 carbine.
Belt-fed, semi-automatic or full-automatic carbine.
DMG series of carbines. And what's new about this carbine, the DMG?
The M1 carbine, which is an old gun. It's been around since the 30s.
This is not a history lesson on the M1 carbine at all. Go watch my original
episode, so I don't have the model 1905 cavalry carbine in question that we're going to talk about.
We're breaking out the M1 carbine. Some folks will pronounce that carbine. This is a 30 caliber military surplus rifle.
Without any doubt, the majority of firearm experts use the word carbine. Now, what surprised me was I was expecting to hear some regional pronunciations, like maybe the folks in the South called it carbine and Northerners called it carbine. Now, in our sampling, you heard a pretty good mix of regional accents, from Southern to Kentucky to Midwestern, Northwestern, California, Georgian, South Carolinian, and the majority just call it carbine. And of course, bloke on the range who was British pronounces it carbine, and it actually sounds proper for some reason, in my ears at least, with that British accent. Another big surprise to me was this gentleman from FN Herstal Company, who is Belgian, pronounces it like this.
It's the FN-15 tactical carbine, 5.56, the FN-15.
So it really isn't just an American pronunciation either. It seems to be almost a standard pronunciation in the firearm industry, though there are a few exceptions. You always find exceptions. Now, another group of individuals who have influence on how we say words like carbine or carbine are gamers. Now whether it's Call of Duty or Battlefield or Crisis or whatever, there's firearms in those games too, and there's often carbines or carbines. So let's hear how gamers pronounce the word.
But for now, I have unlocked all the carbines and used each one as that I unlocked them.
More video. This time we're gonna review all of the carbines in Battlefield 4. As usual,
Now, I've done videos in the past covering what I think the best carbines were, but a lot of those are dated now.
And what you think are the best carbines in Battlefield 4.
KU-12 is that the fire rate is probably one of the slowest for the carbine rifles in the game.
This time we're going to be talking about the top 5 carbines, or carbines, however you want to pronounce it.
And there were certainly many more examples of people in the firearm industry talking about carbines or carbines. In the gaming community, it was a little more limited, but we did find quite a few, and we could pretty much determine that the majority of gamers prefer carbine over carbine. Now, many of these gaming channels are very, very large, and they have a tremendous influence on how we say these words. You know, when you hear someone say carbine, carbine, carbine all the time, well, pretty soon you're going to pronounce it that way too. And it's the same way when you hear carbine. Now, the final group of influential people who might actually say carbine or carbine in everyday conversation would be Airsoft folks. So let's see what they have to say.
The Lancer Tactical Foul Carbine Airsoft Gun.
Arms M4 Carbine. Now this is their
Union
Airsoft
3D printed PDW carbine kit.
M2 Carbine imported by
Elite Force M4 Carbine. There's been a lot of requests.
M1 Carbine. It's a World War II
Today
piece
we're
now.
taking a look at the King Arms gas blowback M1 Carbine.
I present you with the M1 Carbine gas blowback.
Now let's take a look at some of the features on the M4S system carbine.
G&G GR16 DST carbine. This is indeed the plastic
Entry-level carbine offering, and I'm just going to come out and say it right
For today, we'll be taking a look at the Scorpion Evo Carbine A1 from ASG.
Now, just like the gaming community, the majority of airsoft enthusiasts call it carbine. And I think the only reason it's not higher than that is because of the influence of the firearm industry has on the airsoft industry. The airsoft guns are faithful representations of real firearms, and I imagine a lot of the reviewers watch a lot of firearm videos. And some of these people just get downright hostile when it comes to these pronunciation errors that they think they've found. They argue, based on the spelling I-N-E, it has to be pronounced carbine. Let's look at that. Sardine, limousine, machine. These words are pronounced the same way with that "een" in both American and British English. Another set of words pronounced the same in British and American English with a different pronunciation of the INE. Doctrine, examine, feminine, imagine. And finally a third set with the long I, sunshine, confine. And again, these are pronounced the same way in both American and British English. I think we can agree that the English language has a terrible set of spelling and pronunciation rules. In the case of carbine or carbine, both pronunciations are correct.
Carbine or carbine.
Some people just refuse to acknowledge this for some reason. They just want to be the rightest person on the internet.
Carbine.
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 While it's recognized that there is a British and American pronunciation of the word, it really goes beyond that. It has to be understood that the word carbine or carbine is neither British nor American. It's actually a French word. Since it belongs to the French, you would think if you wanted to pronounce it properly, you'd say it like the French people, right? Let's listen to how they say it.
Carbine. Carbine. Carbine.
Now that's great and all, but what we've learned is there's almost 3 parallel universes here, and how you say certain words may be completely influenced by what circle you surround yourself with. But the circles do blend. There's lots of firearms enthusiasts who are into both airsoft and video games. Airsofters seem to be heavily influenced by video game content, but a good chunk of them do cross into the firearm circle. But for the most part, gamers stay in their own circle. They're not interested in real firearms, and they're not interested in airsoft. They just hear carbine all the time, so that's just how the word's pronounced. End of discussion. Now, of the three groups, the firearm industry has been talking about carbines for 100 years before any other group has. The next oldest group would be the airsoft enthusiasts. Airsoft was invented in the early 80s. And then the newest group of all would be the gamers, and gaming didn't take its foothold until the mid 1990s or so. But really, nobody was really talking about these things where you could actually hear them until the dawn of YouTube, right? Up till that point, we only heard the word carbine or carbine in movies, TV shows, and documentaries. But why do firearm enthusiasts tend to use the French pronunciation of carbine rather than the British carbine? The majority of people in the firearm industry are American, and we usually don't Americanize foreign words. We are a country of many different cultures. We're a melting pot, and we think it's just the most honorable and proper thing to pronounce words the way that those individual cultures say these words themselves. And trust me when I say that the firearm circle has been debating the pronunciation of carbine or carbine decades before the internet.